Hi, everybody. Karen Roby here for ZDNet. We're going to be talking with Scott Fulton today. Of course, the pandemic that paused society, most certainly what we've been talking about, everybody, that is. And as the world digs in for the roughest pandemic that we've ever seen in our lifetimes, what will our world look like when we emerge from the lockdown? Unemployment claims are spiking. Of course, service-based industries can't reach their customers. And can technology, that's the question, help lead us out of the storm? Or will the damage be done to supply chains, delivery channels, and manufacturing plans be too devastated for the tech economy to regain its footing without enormous human effort? Well, that's why we are talking today with ZDNet Scott Fulton, as he's been researching this very topic for us. Scott, thanks for being with us. I know you've found a couple bright spots, which we like to hear because we need as much good news as we can get right now, but certainly some dark clouds as well. So give it to me straight. What's the prognosis? And do we just throw all of our plans for the global tech economy out the window and start over at this point? What do you think?
Well, first of all, thank you for welcoming me into your home.
Yes, welcome to my home.
So it seems like I've had this as my studio for a few years, and now folks are making their homes their studios, and it's like, welcome to my world now.
That's right. We're all feeling your pain of trying to work at home with everybody and cats and dogs and everything being right in the middle of it.
Well, I want to say to our dozens upon dozens of viewers, first of all, I'm glad that you're taking care of yourself. I'm glad that you're taking the time out from what is must be a ridiculous itinerary that you're having to deal with to look at Karen and me and talk about some fairly serious matters that may not, on certain scales, be as serious as your health, your well-being, the well-being of your family. All these things that Karen and I both know are foremost in your mind. You're probably thinking, the tech economy, maybe that can wait. Well, the fact that the tech economy maybe can wait is actually the subject of our little discussion here. The fact that we kind of have pause on a significant segment of our economy, and in so doing, how do we emerge from that? Karen said there might be some bright spots. Well, there are a few, and I've been talking with a lot of people. There are some analysts in the semiconductor industry who say that there are some built-in mechanisms to deal with the supply shock that was caused by China's having to poke pause on its production, and it will probably continue to do so as the Chinese people recover, and they are recovering. That still is very good news. Those the kind of a stockpile, if you will, there are small stockpiles of semiconductors. Those semiconductors can be used to assemble devices. Those devices can be picked up. When demand starts to spike again after probably our first phase of being locked down, then there will be ways to assemble these devices. Now, the problem will be shipping, whether we'll be able to start shipping again, whether China can ship to us, whether we'll be able to ship to the rest of the world. The delivery channels have been severely disrupted. Today, you may have, as we tape this, Amazon has put out a message saying they're not going to be shipping everything to every customer. So the things that you would normally get, you think, we're going to hunker down, we've got Amazon, we can get these things for us. The answer to that might be no. They're going to prioritize some of their high importance items, baby goods, medical goods, pharmaceuticals, things that people need for business and everyday life. That they're going to keep on priority. But they're going to be suspending some of the things that they would get from outside suppliers, things that they don't normally keep in their warehouse. Or in certain cases, they'll be placing up on a much lower priority. So if you're ordering something that you might not normally get from Amazon without going to one of their third parties, like a part for your camera or something, you might expect that to take a few more weeks. So, but the good news is they're working out logistics ways of making that happen anyway. So you're not going to be completely cut off. So there are some bright spots to talk about. but there's also a kind of a dark cloud, and it has to do with the graph behind it that I brought up that not a lot of people have seen yet. This is from a report that was produced by Imperial College of London. These are medical, biomedical, and research experts who have been hired by the United Kingdom's government, and in turn are being used by other governments, including ours, to help us get a handle on what's really ahead of us in terms of society. How will society work? And you've all seen the graph of flattening the curve, of taking the we do nothing about things graph, where things completely, where the number of reported cases just completely withstands our capability to address that with our current medical system. And the flattening the curve idea is that we can draw that down, we can make that sustainable at a cost of making the event last longer. How long? Well, if you've heard the prognosis that this event could last 18 months, that prognosis came originally from Imperial College London, and that was that curve that they produced a couple weeks ago. And then there's this puppy, which you're going to hate, but we may have to learn to live with it. The question they've been tackling is, how do we keep that curve flat and minimize damage to economies, to our supply chains, to our manufacturing? We can't just stop making things for 18 months, can we? So they come up with an idea. The idea is this: let's monitor on an hourly basis all around the world the capacities of our intensive care unit beds. How many people can our hospitals take in? I mean, new cases. And monitor that and maintain a kind of a threshold number. And when we get to a point where the number of new cases exceeds that threshold number, we need to snap in a kind of a hunker down, shelter in place protocol, where we do what we're doing now. We go back to our homes and we wait this period out for a couple of weeks. And then we wait for that number to subside in an ICU bed. When it does subside, maybe we can peek out of the hole from time to time. Maybe we can go back to work in our offices, in our factories. Maybe we can make some things. And that curve that you saw on the earlier graphs that looks like this, it ends up looking like this. You're dealing with ICU bed cases that rise pretty high. And during that period of time, we institute that shelter-in-place protocol. And then when they subside to a fairly manageable number, then maybe we can come out. So maybe we can go back to working out of our offices or in our regular places of business rather than our home offices. Because let's face it, only about a quarter of American workers can do their jobs, or to some extent, from home. Mm-hmm. I can. I'm in a creative business where I can work at this desk. But a person who makes things or helps other people make things for a living, like drugs that people are going to need to live, that's another deal. So we're going to have a situation where, for the foreseeable future, we're going to be in and out of hunkering down mode. And we'll be watching this ICU number, this sawtooth wave. And it'll be only through this, say the scientists at Imperial College London, that we'll be able to keep the general curve of coronavirus cases manageable and low, where we'll be able to treat them using the resources we have. This is a nice graph to have if you're planning a local economy, a regional economy for the near future. But here's the problem when you bring this up, as I have, with consultants who heard it for the first time from me, some of them. They're saying, how do we organize shipping? How do we organize supply chain schedules? If one country or one region of the world is on lockdown and another one is not, do we synchronize? Do we alternate our channels? Do we say this is an A week, so I'm up and you're down, and a B week, you're up and I'm down? We haven't dealt with this before. This is something that is completely new for people. And this is a problem that's going to have to be solved by the time some people watch this video.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. You know, because the world as we know it has been flips upside down. It's already been disrupted, and that would lead me to my next question or a point here to make. Do you think that, you know, when you talk about disruptive technologies like machine learning or quantum computing, you know, for us to use now, could they possibly help drag us out of this crisis? What do you think about that?
I don't know. Do you want any more disruption? I'm not sure. I think I'm done with disruption.
I've had it.
And I work from home full time, and I have for 4 decades now. So imagine the folks who are disrupting, who are coming home, having to deal with teaching their kids, keeping them safe, keeping their pets indoors and outdoors, you know, going to the vet, taking care of mom and dad, and doing all this. Disruption for them is happening now. We don't want disruptive technology. We want a technology that brings us some solace, some peace, some stability, some equilibrium. So, the question: can artificial intelligence do some of that? Well, if we had put artificial intelligence to good use some weeks back, we might have come up with a graph like this in January. And if we had, maybe it wouldn't have been so long. Maybe it would have just been this period, and maybe there would have been this much lower. So there are some technologies and ideas that, yeah, we can put to use. Maybe we've been calling them disruptive in terms of market disruption. Well, if we had a market disruption now, you wouldn't recognize it, because we're about to experience a 12 to 14% drop in global GDP. So you need to re-examine some of these technologies and say, can we put them to good use for? AI, artificial intelligence, can be put to good use because we can market models for markets. We can create models for pandemic response teams. We can create simulations that say, what if we were to do this? Can we keep these numbers lower? It's methods like that helped Imperial College to produce a graph like this, which is going to be one of the most important charts we'll see in the next 18 to 24 months. Now, other things that we might need to put on the shelf for a while, some of the higher end technologies that are going into 5G portfolio. Do we really need gigabit services beamed at our office window? There's a chance that the answer to that is maybe we can poke pause on that. Some 5G technologies we need right now. We need more bandwidth. As a matter of fact, there are folks telling me that we may have a bandwidth crisis. We may have to address that with some things in the 5G portfolio, like creative use of unlicensed spectrum. Quantum computing. I love the idea of quantum computing. I think we're going to have to put that on the shelf for a while, because even if we get workable quantum computers, making them adaptable to public use in an ordinary economy is going to take about 24 months of our time. I don't think we have that right now. So if we're going to prioritize, we need to put our money, our funds, our backing, and our time behind technologies that can be of immediate use to us right now, and that can take these long periods of time that we're going to have to wait and come up with ways of making it shorter, easier, more adaptive. For instance, for logistics purposes, how are we going to get groceries to rural areas when you have reduced shipping? You're going to have to find ways of getting proteins to people in communities that used to be bigger farm communities or bigger petroleum producing communities that don't really have a local grocery store at the moment. They may be in the relative wilderness. You're going to need technologies like AI to say, how can you create shipping channels for some of the remote parts of our country? And this can be true for Canada as well, Mexico as well, and other countries. We're going to need to find a way of sharing that. And oh yeah, sharing, that's a good thing. we're going to need to open up the channels that we've been closing. We're going to need to be a lot less isolationist than we've become in the last 3 or 4 years. We're going to need to talk with our allies. We're going to need to talk with our adversaries and have them not be adversaries for once, and have them come together on global plans to do small steps like improving apps, like improving artificial intelligence, to get us out of the hole that's been dug for us.
Yeah, yeah, some good thoughts there, Scott. And as we look ahead, or as you look ahead for us here a little bit in closing, talk about what you see, the picture of the state of technology that you think we're likely to see, say, in March or April of next year, of 2021. What do you see has changed, and what parts of the economy do you think will have recovered?
I do think that by this time next year, we'll be able to look back and say, oh, look how much we've gotten a handle on. We thought maybe this thing was unmanageable, but not only can we get a handle on this coronavirus crisis, but we can use what we've learned to manage the new crises that are ahead. We'll face a COVID-21 at some point, but we'll be a lot smarter about it. We won't let it get like this. Coronaviruses evolve. The 19 virus, which stood for 2019, the first year in which it was seen, is an evolution of the cold. Well, we need to evolve. We need to evolve the way we apply technology to solve problems like a COVID-21 or a COVID-23. So what technologies will do that with us? We need a much more stable and direct internet than we have. We have a patchwork system of domains and subdomains that's okay for sending old style email, but we've already bypassed it for Netflix and all the other online things we have. We think we get that from the internet or the web. Not really. We get those from mostly CDN, some of which Netflix has paid for itself. So what technologies will emerge, will survive? We'll have stronger and more dedicated pathways of distribution for data, because our hospitals will need it, so our hospitals will have it. They will be prioritized. They need to be able to get expertise out to remote areas of our country and other parts of the world that don't have that direct expertise. So that telemedicine, if you've heard about that, that's going to be stronger. The video connections like what we're having right now are also going to need to be stronger. I mean, I've got a thunderstorm brewing outside, and my channel has been going in and out. This is not going to be acceptable for a world that's going to spend at least 2/3, if not 3/3 of its time with 28 to 30% of its workers working out of their home. The patterns of network management are going to change during that period. So those will be stronger. And our telecommunication systems, those will be stronger, but you're going to have throughout the world government assistance for that. There will be countries that make the hard decision to say, okay, we need to invest in our infrastructure to help us communicate better with each other, to keep these channels open. We're going to need to invest in systems that make it easier to screen for potentially damaging viruses from our ports of entry, from our airports. That's going to improve. And I was looking the other day at a stand-up comedy routine. It was like 2 in the morning, and I was checking things on Pluto TV from one of our sister services, and I was finding a stand-up comedy routine. It was about like 2005, 2006, complaining about being screened at airports and how ridiculous the TSA people are. And I was thinking about how old that seems. We're 14 years past that now, and we're accustomed to that. Our systems have gotten smarter and stronger. And we don't see it as a sacrifice anymore. We see it as part of life. Well, screening our temperature, screening for how clean our hands are, that's going to be part of life. Because you know something? We're going to need to hug each other at some point. And we're going to need to have no fear in doing so. Handshakes are going to have to come back. I had always said that it was wonderful that my daughter's generation are less afraid to shake hands and hug one another than my generation was. And that openness is going to come back. And it's going to be a force that helps us do the technological things that we'll need to do to bring us back to that point. So this will be a hardship, and there will be devastation, and people will be hurt by this. And that hurt and that pain will help us all to emerge into a better and smarter world. And that's a smarter world to help fight the other problem we'll be facing, which is climate change.
Very well said. And I like leaving it on a positive note there. Scott, you're right. That's some good, food for thought for us, certainly. Just a lot of uncertainty that makes things harder on it, does it, as humans. There's no doubt about that. Well, we appreciate you being with me here today from our homes, which is going to become the new norm for a lot of us for a while. So we'll check back in with you again soon. And of course, folks can read your full articles on ZDNet.